Can attempt. Hello. Hello to Nikki, who is here with me today, and to anybody who might be watching this. We'll do a little talk about a topic that's very close to my heart, and that is rage, sacred rage. We can call it divine rage. We can call it as a state of feeling that can feel so misunderstood, so deeply misunderstood. And we're going to start, if you want to do the invitation to sit in silence, if you're watching this at home or wherever you are, and take in the words. Look after yourself if anything gets too much, because this is really hot territory that I'm not taking lightly as a topic, right? And there's a reason for that, and rightly so. There's a potency behind this path when we talk about rage. A little bit about me. I am from Crete, and that is important information to start with our history, where we arrive from. As a child and as a woman, I'm neurodivergent. So for any of you who are neurodivergent or have not neurodivergent kids, anger and rage might be a very common visitor in the system because of how the brain wiring is in the system. But as a child, I was blessed with the energy of outrage. I fought with all my cousins. I was blessed to be allowed, despite the consequences I received as a child, as a result of my difficult behavior, I still expressed it and let it out. And the wounding for me came as a result of that. Actually, I learned that it's not safe to communicate your outrage. It didn't stop me at any point. There's a real kind of inner rebel in me. But it meant that I attached to it a lot of shame. And that is very common. And I can talk a lot about the constellation of my home, that I was actually the only voice of anger and rage in my house. And on some level, I held that emotional responsibility like a sponge for my family members. And of course, when things were tough, there was a lot of more other consequences, like physical abuse, for example. But the history of my island that I come from is Crete, and Crete was occupied by the Ottomans, the British, the Venetians, and it only became part of Greece in 1913. So my people in my land had to fight, had to engage with that energy to protect the land. And that's important information, because when we tap into the energetics of these intense emotional experiences, it can travel us back down in our lineage. I just want to offer that as a little pointer. And I actually remember my grandma telling me stories from the World War II whilst feeding me, telling me stories that she's not a child that was killed by the Germans. And she was mentioning that as a matter of fact. One of our meetings will be on ancestral lineage. And rage does, outrage, the energy of rage does tap into our ancestors inevitably. Yeah, a little bit about me on that. It's a topic that's very, very close to my heart. I have traveled, especially since motherhood, but even more so the last year, with the deep burning of clarity that rage has gifted me. That learning to ride that energy of phoenix Phoenix energy, we can talk with archetypes, catapulted me into an unfathomable depth of creativity. This community was birthed as part of that opening. Another 2 communities were birthed, 2 poetry books, another 2 books, just unimaginable creativity. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what it actually means to ride the energy of rage. I was only able to do when we move away the shame that we associate with it. And although we might know that intellectually, that we can tell ourselves, some of us, perhaps some others are finding that still hard, that it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to feel the rage. On a deep cellular level, we still carry the shame around it. And when we learn, we begin to separate the bodily sensations of rage, which to me at the moment is very clear. It is divine energy dancing down in my body, and it's a clarifying force. But whenever I notice a descent, it's a signal to me. My body has a vibrational energetic that I can't describe. When shame empties and falls away and it dissolves, we're left with that energy. And that energy is the vibrational life force in us that might want to create, might want to dance. As a neurodivergent, I have a lot of voltage of energy in my system. So because of my neurodivergence, I can lose myself in motherhood very quickly. I'm very present, I'm very here, which means I can lose me very quickly. Then the vibrational energy of rage visits me to remind me, it's your time now. It's fascinating, it's an ally. And that's why I love it, and that's why I want to talk about it and deconstruct, decolonize, depathologize, and humanize it, reclaim it. It's a reclamation, especially for us as women and mothers. And you can hear the passion in my voice as I'm talking about it. Yeah. Okay. If you are at home, you might want to light a candle, a fire that can symbolize that sacred rage. And you can do that. Take a moment to do that. Nikki, your heart emoji is telling me that you probably have that now. And just simply to begin with, notice, without going into a deep kind of, I'll probably create some kind of course around this at some point. But just as we approach the subject, I find it fascinating that people didn't turn up today, and people have practical reasons. This is a hot call topic. Yeah. What comes to mind or in your body, even just hearing the word rage? And just simply notice that, or take a pen and write a few words down. Or if you're here and you want to type, shame. Yes. Yeah. Nikki, shame is so deep. And it goes hand in hand. And they're like siblings of a different mother. So very often, that's a very common response. We feel shame. We feel we're not allowed it. We feel we shouldn't carry it. And we create stories around it about why we shouldn't feel it. So in this workshop, in this meeting, in this conversation, we're having our hand on the window, on the doorknob, and we're opening the door fully. And now I want to say we fully welcome it in. But that will depend on your context and where you are on your journey and your inner work and your spiritual awakening, wherever you are, it doesn't really matter. But I trust you know how deeply you want to open that door to welcome it in. But in my heart, it's fully welcome. Okay. So I want to start going a little bit deeper into our inner self now before we come out again, and I'll offer a couple of prompts at some point. But starting with a prayer. And the prayer of devotion to the Great Mother, which is another archetype that's walking through me. Yeah. Okay. That's as fine, Nikki. Because the Great Mother, God, Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it, doesn't distinguish between good feelings and bad feelings. So a prayer to the Great Mother, to the sacred fire, the sacred flame, the source of all our power and all our truth. We come to you, before you, with open palms and a tender heart, calling for your deepest wisdom. That any insight you might want to bestow upon us, from ancestors well in spirit, for those of us before us who carried burdens and unspoken truths, may we be guided by their wisdom in honoring this sacred fire within. May we let our rage and outrage be a clarifying force in the world than destruction. May it be the voice of boundaries and fiercely protecting our truth. May it become a guardian of our tender, sacred heart, justice. May we make space for it compassionately to let it rise to the surface in any way that feels safe and manageable for our bodies right now. And let it inform us. Let it be here, unbound, unshamed, and fully seen. May we find the hidden blessing in it as we deeper in the grounding through our lower part of our bodies. And as we keep rooting in the stability of the ground that this earth provides, solidly here, unwaveringly alive. May whatever comes today for you begin or continue or initiate any healing that's needed, so that we become an alive, loving prayer in our walk in this life. And as we move through this transformational work, it is transforming energy. May we find peace in our power, grace, and place of truth, and freedom in our surrender. So be it. Om Shanti. 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 Om Shanti. 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 Om Shanti. 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 Stay for a minute in the energy of that prayer. And take a moment to allow your heart, which is open already as it is, to reveal to you her intention in relation to rage. What is your heart's deepest longing? So it will require to notice maybe what the block is. And we say whatever gets in the way is the way. So if there's shame that's coming up, may the intention be to release the shame around it and let it become the channel of the inner innocence, but also of truth. What is it trying to communicate? Can I let rage become a teacher for me? Can I release fear, shame, or judgment I have about it and around it? Or it may be simply a commitment. I commit that I am open to begin to listen to its wisdom with an open heart from that place that is it's deeper than shame and judgment. It may be that you're inviting it to reveal what needs to be healed, transformed, released, voiced. It may be that you want to open up so that it reveals to you where your boundaries have been violated or crossed or compromised, or your heart's deepest longing not fulfilled. Whatever it is, listen to those heartstrings that pull your attention for the right intention. So I've got in mind some lovely prompts, and I'm happy to offer them here, but also later for you to take away and reflect. And a lovely exercise about communicating with the flame that you have, which I know for those of you who are here might not be possible, but it still might be possible to take time whenever you feel the calling and let the flame talk to you. Maybe perhaps take a minute now and see what comes up. This can be a longer exercise, and in a bigger group we could and delve into this. But take a moment to look at the flame or imagine a flame in your mind's eye if you don't have a candle lit. And imagine it speaking to you. What does it say? What are the messages And it's okay if nothing comes out. We're opening the channels of communication, and that can feel uncharted territory. Yeah, especially if it's something that we have ostracized for a long time in our system. So go gently in this, and you're in charge at all times and how much you want to open up. But shame was brought earlier, and I want to talk a little bit about that. And the feeling of shame for feeling the rage is because quite often, apart from societal conditions and expectations, especially for women, how women should be and behave, and it's the classic girls don't become angry and boys don't become vulnerable. It's the same coin, two different sides, right? But rage doesn't have to come out. You know what comes to mind for people when they hear the word rage. It can be so many other things. It could be the way that we keep violating ourselves and becoming our own, almost an inner oppressor. It can disguise as overgiving. Yeah. When I was riding that fire of rage in my motherhood journey, a third child, and I would feel it erupt like nothing I have felt in my life before. And I would feel the heat, my whole body would heat up. And I had like monstrous kind of murderous scenes sometimes come through my head. But the times that I would lean in curiously, just show me, I would be taken to my grandparents' house, my grandmother's house. And I was shown, I had visions of all the unspoken, the unspoken injustice, the unspoken grief, the unspoken pain that was never spoken. And I was given, the only way I can describe it, as bodily visions of my grandmom and in the sink, washing the dishes, quietly, biting her lip, biting her tongue, just keep soldiering on, keep armoring. And then, of course, rage at its core is grief. We cannot talk about rage if we don't talk about grief. Profound grief. The feeling of anger can be associated with a sense of loss, a sense of that's not fair. But rage, it's deeper. And the grief can be for parts of ourselves in childhood that were lost, not acknowledged, not seen, or not been given the space to voice our truth and perhaps to even learn how to communicate this very true feeling and find the words. It could be about feelings of loss in our motherhood, our identities being lost. Yeah. So they dance together, these two, grief and rage dance together. And the one gives voice to the pain and the other one gives calling for healing. So in some ways, grief is asking, what have I lost? What have I lost and what have I forgotten to love? And rage for me, when it erupted, it was a very clarifying energy. Its mission is reclamation. Yeah. How can I reclaim what I've lost? How can I claim back my voice, my truth, my needs? For me, it was about stating my needs and really learning, for the first time ever, perhaps, in a very adult way. And I'm still learning. I'm work in progress. This is not perfection here whatsoever. I lose it quite often. But also have a specific context. So it's giving me information of what is not yet expressed, either creatively, and that can be, returning to my creative projects, fulfilling my needs, putting my boundaries in place, saying yes and yes, saying no, learning when to say. And they're both sacred, they're both necessary. So the injustice we give ourselves when we don't really harness that energy of rage. And my goodness, I don't know about you, but as a mom, I have howled at the level and the depth of injustice. Oh, got a message here from Nikki. The depth of injustice with Israel and the war. And this is where my poetry started pouring through, because I broke wide open willingly leaning into rage and be willing to see it and meet it with the eyes of awareness and the light of awareness. Show me. And for that, I have to say, it can destabilize the system because it opens up the doors. That was my journey. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be yours this way. And I'm just going to take a minute to read, Nikki, what you're sharing here. Yeah. Yeah, feeling unseen is often a fire, right? Yes. I'm feeling, and it can feel when we start to open into reclaiming this voice, it can feel very lonely. We can feel very vulnerable to being gaslight. And because people are not used to women, yeah, humanity let alone, but women especially, being their power. Yeah. And when we enter the portal, and it is a sacred portal, and I fully trust radically your journey. Okay. Yeah. It's foreign because we've been conditioned to not tap into that or feel shame for that. But the clarity of truth is ancient. Yeah. And for me as a foreigner, and you may relate with that, I think, from what you're sharing, as Greek in England was another thing that I realized I had to tame down. For a while I was saying, I'm from Crete. I talked about my land, my people, strong matriarch women. There was a lot of need for rage, for the injustice. So I came to England and I swallowed these aspects of me. And then I had a big awakening and it blasted it all open, and the old coping strategies just didn't work anymore. It had to be felt. And this is what grace does for us. It breaks us open. She breaks us open so that we taste the nectar of the truth behind each emotional state. Not the truth that the mind will go and search, but the deep truth of the soul on a soul level. And for that, we need to be prepared to meet the shadows that come up. And sometimes therapy helps, and and there is a culture in society, anger management programs. I feel deflated just, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes that's helpful, right? But even that can be experienced as another layer of shaming, actually. And this is something that as parents, I think, carry a lot of shame for. How often do we lose it in our daily lives with children? How often do we lose it? Grown really good at working on myself, at doing it less and less and less. But nonetheless, rage is an ancestral channel. It carries stuff for us. And the shame is this silent companion that can be very insidiously sort of come under our skin and our flesh, and feel that our anger is wrong, that our needs are selfish. And the paradox that I have discovered is that the more I give me to me, and this here holding this space is one of the ways that I keep replenishing this place in me that is unconditional love, actually. Yeah. And the more I keep giving me, the more I have to give out. The more we welcome home back in IFS, internal family systems. We will do parts work at some point. Maybe next week, we'll see. The more we home these parts in our heart. Yeah. And the more we turn to wholeness, and especially as parents and mothers. There is the old paradigm, at least in my story, we give everything to our children. We self-sacrifice and become martyrs. And it took me a while to come around working through the deep heart of service that this ancestral gift handed down to me. Yeah, that yes, there's wounding, but underneath our wounding, there's always a golden gem waiting to be discovered. And there's different ways that can be expressed through the body, and you will find your ways. For me, it's been dance. There's been times I had to come in because the energy was so deep, so cellular, so alive, that I had to come in and play stomping dinosaur games with my kids, or even singing out loud, too loud sometimes, or punching pillows. I don't necessarily recommend just go off and do that. It's got to be discerned on a very inner visceral discernment. What do I need right now? And this whole journey becomes with a curious mind. That's all it's needed. Truly, well, can I be curious about this? If there's judgment that comes, can I be curious about the judgment? Can I welcome that in? And that, and that, and weave with the threads of the wounded, you're gifted. Yeah. It's a guiding force for where we are in humanity. And it's a leading force back to where we belong. And we know that on our soul level. I talked a lot. So, Nikki, I don't know if there's anything else that's coming up for you. When our feelings get minimized, we get triggered because the little one in us gets triggered. And because the truth of the soul knows that I am worth of attention, I am worth of respect. And this is the beauty of this journey, that respect, if it arrives from the depths of our soul for us, and then it leaks out from us and it's mirrored on the outside back to ourselves. Yeah, Nikki's saying here about, yes, yeah. Our context as mothers, especially, and with our children, and especially some of us that might have struggled to have a child. It's our whole world, right? And in my journey, in my story, I am coming from a lineage of women that sacrificed it all. They gave themselves to it, but with secret resentment and unspoken resentment that I got to feel, right? And all of a sudden, there's ripple effects in wider family, women standing up for their power. It takes one person sometimes to carry that. Yeah. Yeah. You're afraid to let go. Yeah, we can lose ourselves. Motherhood is it's been the most rewarding and the most accelerating portal for me, deepening my awakening journey, and keeps bruising me back into humility again and again and again. and love, unconditional love. And that does not mean that's where rage is useful sometimes to really clarify at which point have we lost us? Have we not listened deeply into our needs? And if I leave my children and I abandon the scripts and stories we play, which are echoes of past, yeah, they're echoes that are only coming in the emptiness of our psyche as an echo so that we can hear it. Yeah. It took me a lot of effort to accustom my body and myself in taking weekends away. If I don't do that, I know. Yeah. I know how to look after myself. And I'm learning and I'm still learning. I'm such a student at this because we're not taught that. Yeah. When we love our child so deeply, so painfully, infinitely, we are reminded that we were never loved the way that we choose to love this time. And if we are willing to let motherhood crack us open into the acute loneliness of that child inside of us, to reunite it with this love, then our field of love shifts. So yeah, so Nick is sharing something really important here. Yeah, we can fulfill these needs that we lack, but this is, I see it as grace, wisdom, right? So if I haven't been loved as a child, I have a longing for my child to show me that it loves me. If I haven't had love as a child, I might overcompensate and tell my children I love them every 5 minutes. Like I put a post in the group the other day. Was telling my eldest, I'm here, just in case you need me. I'm here, breaking his balls basically. My insecurity, my anxiety. Does he know I'm here? We all do. We overdo everything. But this is we're the first generation to start breaking consciously. I keep saying this. Yeah. And he said to me, Mom, I can't remember if he said shut up. I can't remember if he said, no, I don't think he did this time. Mom, he said, I just need some space. I know you're there. Yeah. 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 So I'm aware I can be overbearing, and that is from a really, truly deep love. It's not only just from our wounding, right? It's because our heart can really love that hard. And so if we can turn around that depth of love and let us bathe in it, give it to ourselves first. Yeah. Then it becomes a vibrational kind of presence that doesn't even need words to show that it's there. That is, the house feels it's a contagious kind of. HeartMath Institute are doing research about the vibrational frequency of the heart space. And I can't remember where I read that or if I heard that, but it's 40 times more than the vibration of the brain. So you can transcend mountains and monasteries and Buddhism and whatever on the mind level. But if you don't drop that knowing on the heart level, that is our work in the world, to really walk that path and be that love. And this is not a kind of very fairy love we're talking about here. We moved from rage to love, but it's still the same the same source calling for different things. that kind of place that is unconditionally accepting of all feeling states, the more we anchor in that, it has the intelligence to know very intuitively what's needed in the moment. And so such deep love, sometimes it can actually come up as a sword love with a very sharp and firm no. You see, when we alchemize the energy of rage into true power, we don't need to shout. We don't need to lose it. This is the moment that I know I'm out of power, I'm out of alignment. Come back in. And when we say no, and it really astonishes me that it's happening with my kids, because in the past I used to be that mom. I am very powerless. I have very challenging context. I'm not going to go into detail, but the sensitivity, it requires me a different level of presence. And that's my sangha, right? Spirit thought, yeah, you'll expand. Let's give you 3 kids, very sensitive needs, and really humble your will to the present moment, to the tit. So I see the blessing in it. But it's hard work, and it's requiring ongoing commitment to myself. And then I can give more from a more empty cup, but it's an empty full cup I can give. And I lose it plentiful, and I say outrageous things often, and the repair is very important. And if we don't have family support, I think, Nikki, you mentioned before, you don't have family support, is really challenging. So sometimes all I'm left with is to surrender. This is how this moment unfolded. There's no other choice. There was no choice for me today. Or that's how it felt, at least. Yeah. And that surrender is really important as well, because it means that we're shortcutting the story of shame just there. Doesn't let it spiral and then spiral forever and travel forever. We cut it right there. If our commitment is clear to keep doing the work, and our heart is always in the right place, there's nothing to fear. What else comes up? And we need the village, as I keep saying, we need the village to raise the parent, let alone the child. Because paradoxically, that's what will raise the child. The work starts with us. So you can, as an activity, and I'm going to put the prompts in the text, converse with the fire. Seagulls. I heard some birds flying. You can ask the fire of your candle to write a letter back to you. Or simply answer some of these questions. What grief lies beneath my rage? What does my rage want me to know about my truth? What boundary, that was a big one for me. What boundary has my rage been trying to protect? So for me, it was a kind of reclamation of my true expression, which blasted me open the more I was leaning in. It was a clarifying force that this is for me. I'm doing this for me. And a recognition, and a shocking recognition, I've never known how to do things for me anyway. Or perhaps we have been very good at that, and then a child comes and our identity shatters because we've let go. We've lost ourselves at this sacrifice. That's a sacrificial act, being a mother. And it's got to be on some level, right? It's a rite of passage. But the rage is filled from the invisible phantoms in society as well, the labor, the societal expectation. That was my biggest one for me. I was expected to be an entrepreneur and a mother and a housewife and doing it all. So it was fascinating for me to witness how my body in that revolt took over of rage. I just let go. I let go from carrying a lot in my head, as in house chores. I let go so much. There were days that the house would be a total mess, and the mind would still try and attempt to do something about it, but my body would just protest. So I had to really go deep and inquire, what are you protesting? And again, it was linked very much in my story with ancestral stuff. Yeah. Okay, Nikki. We'll take some time to take a few breaths as we're coming towards the end, and maybe take the moment, Nikki, whatever you can, to just really give kudos to yourself for coming here whilst you're having a little one with you. I really, really value you and appreciating you for doing that, because you're doing it for so many other women before you and the children after you. And just take a moment to really acknowledge and appreciate in yourself how amazing you're doing in your parent role. And nature makes no mistakes. And whatever and however our journey is unfolding, it's exactly as it should be. I thought I'll close with a poem, but maybe I'll pause the poem. Just a couple of minutes to really acknowledge the commitment and the courage and the faith that it takes to have your hand on that doorknob and open the door. And as a messenger, rage is here to fight through a place of no fight, and I know it's a paradox, for a better world. It's the calling of the heart, the deep solar heart of justice for this world that says enough, no more. This is the path that we're carving. And it can do that with silence, it can do that with action and activism. Everybody's journey is very unique. I have no idea I'll be doing all of this. It's emerged as part of my unfolding. Most of the days I'm free falling into this infinite teacher, which is the mystery of this life, of this existence, without expectations or attachments to outcomes, or just listening, the deep wisdom in your heart. For some, maybe the energy of rage to be alchemized is to become the best mother they can be. And that is the deepest service in the world. Deepest. And I'm such a student to this journey. So if this topic is of interest, let me know, and This can expand in a couple of weeks for sure. It's a topic close to my heart as well. So if that was of interest and you would like to hear more or do more, then let me know. I'll stop the recording. Thank you for watching. I will post the details of our community in the comments, and thanks for your time and your sharing, Nikki.